Hey guys, welcome back to Corey Has Spoken. So we are back with some big fights and big fight feels this weekend. The main event between Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira is just going to be an off the hook fight. I'm super excited about this one, guys. I really, really am. So I'm going to talk about the top three fights. Which means I guess you could call it the co-main event, which, this one to me is very similar to the fight we had a few weeks ago between Gilbert Burns and Kamzat. It's not the co-main event. It's not the main event, but in some ways, it's going to be the people's main event, and it's just a fight that everybody is really, really buzzing to see. Michael Chandler is one of these guys that has shown since he's coming to the UFC that although I'm sure he wants to win a title, I'm sure he would love to be the champion, he gets it. He gets it that the most important thing is to entertain the fans and be in exciting fights. Hence, the last fight with between himself and Justin Gaethje. I mean, the last time these two guys were on a card together was absolute madness. Possibly one of the best three-round fights in existence. Now, they're not fighting one another this time. They're obviously fighting separate people, but it just goes to show you the kind of fighters that each of those guys are. So I'm really excited to have both of these guys fighting on the same card again. It's just going to be a hell of a night, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So as I've already stated, there's Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's last time out was his loss against Beneil Dariush, which he pretty much was dominated most of that fight, a lot of it on the ground, but he was dominated through that fight. Tony Ferguson's going to be looking to get back on the winning track, but Michael Chandler too. Michael Chandler's only had 3 fights in the UFC, and 2 of those have been losses. Like I said, there are exceptions to the rule. A lot of times, losses are still wins. And Michael Chandler is one of those guys. Anytime he's been in there in the UFC, he has put on a hell of a performance and has gone after his opponent in a very, very aggressive way. And because of that, folks love to watch him fight, man. Folks just love watching him fight. So he's one of those guys that even though he's lost, his stock has gone up and he has not lost any style points. He's becoming a very popular fighter to watch. People love the style in which he fights, that, going all in for every moment that he's in there. I just can't say enough about that fight between him and Justin Gaethje. One of the best 3-round fights I've ever seen. So as long as that's the Michael Chandler that we get, I expect this to be fireworks. And Tony Ferguson's one of those guys, too. He gets hit, but he doesn't get finished a lot. He's hard to kill, so to speak. So I expect this to just be a back and forth war. The only way I think there may be a variance in this fight is that Michael Chandler has lost 2 in a row. He was the man in Bellator, was actually a Bellator champ for a while. And so I'm wondering if Michael Chandler in his own mind, is thinking, I don't want to do 3 losses in a row, man. I don't want to do 3 losses in a row. I feel like he's more of an explosive and stronger athlete and grappler than is Tony Ferguson. So I feel like a sure key to victory for Michael Chandler would probably be the grappling. So I see that maybe, possibly, he could mix up his game plan a little bit in this fight just because he does not want to lose 3 fights in a row. If you're losing fights but your stock is still going up, just like his last fight with Justin Gaethje, that's cool. You're no worse for it. People still love you. Your stock is going up because you're in exciting fights. But it gets to a point where if you've lost 3 in a row, 4 in a row, that begins to affect your career negatively. And I know that Michael Chandler doesn't want that. You got certain rare individuals like Nate Diaz who, no one gives a shit if he loses, man. Who gives a shit if Nate loses? They don't, because he's already or he's always in exciting fights, and that's what the fans want to see. And the UFC understands that that's what the fans want to see. So, I think Michael Chandler is slowly but surely kind of falling into that category of just being a guy who goes out there and delivers exciting fights. I've watched some of his interviews, and he definitely seems to conceptualize that and understand that fact. And that is what he's looking to do. So I don't think that's going to change in this fight unless Michael Chandler just gets a little bit of cold feet, thinking to himself, okay, I've lost two in a row. I've lost two in a row. I definitely don't want to take an L to Tony Ferguson. So let me go in here and take the path of least resistance, get this guy down, ground and pound him a little bit because I'm, kind of a bigger, stronger individual. That's the only way I see, his style changing at all. With that said, I always pick my fights on here based on who I think is going to get it done. I think Michael Chandler gets it done. Tony Ferguson's a little bit older. He's on his way out. He's always a juggernaut, man. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't get finished very easily. But I just think that Michael Chandler has more ways to win. I think he has more power than does Tony Ferguson. I think if Chandler can stay away from any unorthodox sort of spinning attacks and make sure he stays away from that Darce and that inverted Darce choke that Tony likes to do if it goes to the ground at all. I think he'll be okay in this fight, and I think he could potentially win that fight probably by decision. I don't want to say by knockout because Tony just doesn't seem to get knocked out, man. He's just one of those guys. He can get hit, he can get caught, he can get bloodied up just like he was in his fight with Justin Gaethje. But ultimately, the ref had to come in and save Tony from himself in that fight because he's one of those guys like you can hurt him, you can get him on skates, but completely separating him from consciousness is just not something that's easy to do. And that's obvious just from his past fight. So I'm going to give Michael Chandler the win. I think probably it's going to be, a decision, but I do think Michael Chandler is going to walk away with that victory. The co-main event, Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza. This one is interesting because this is the second fight between these two ladies. The first fight, Carla Esparza actually won via rear naked choke. The way she won that fight clearly was via her grappling and her grappling prowess. She out-grappled Rose the whole time. But here's the thing. Rose Namajunas comes from one of the best fight camps and training camps that exist in MMA. And they're some of the best at game planning and strategizing. So I don't see that same outcome that played out in their first fight playing out in this fight. I think they've researched it. I think they realize that this time she needs to stay off of the ground with Carla Esparza. And if they do get on the ground, I think they're going to have a good plan to get her back up on her feet immediately so she can play to her strengths. Because I'm telling you now, the strength on the feet is undoubtedly in the favor of Rose Namajunas, and as good as she already was, since she lost that title for a little while there, and then came back and won the title back. During that period of time that she didn't have that title, she has improved tremendously, even in her stand up. And when we think of Rose, we think of her stand up being her strength. Well, even her strengths have gotten stronger through that period of time. So I think as long as she can keep this on the feet, I don't think we're going to have the same outcome as we did first time. I think Rose Namajunas defends her belt. She's got more of a reason to fight this time. She's defending that strap, and I think she's going to do that. And as long as she can stay off of the mat, I believe that this is going to be a decision victory for Rose Namajunas. Now, Rose could knock her out. She showed with Wei Li that she's able to, especially with her head kicks. I mean, she's got some solid kicks, and she does a great job of mixing those up into her whole attack. She'll go low and she'll go high with she'll go to a body kick. She'll do a couple of those, get the person thinking body, and then she'll go to the head. She does a good job of mixing in her kicks with the punching attacks, mixing in punching combinations and kicks all in there together, just kind of keeping her opponent guessing the whole time. She's really good at that aspect of the game. So, um, let me just be straightforward. The only way Carla Esparza has to win this fight is on the ground. I don't think she's going to be able to keep it there. I think Rose and them, especially in light of how the last fight ended, I think her and her camp are going to be ready for that. I think they've done a lot of practice of, tightening up Rose's wrestling chops, especially her defensive wrestling, getting her sprawl game really tight so that she's able to sprawl out and just stay on her feet the whole time where she's the strongest. And I think Rose wins this fight via decision. All right. The main event, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. Oh man, it's hard for me to count out Charles Oliveira. I've been doing it ever since he fought Michael Chandler. I picked Michael Chandler to beat Charles Oliveira because I had kept up with Michael Chandler in Bellator. Um, I didn't think Charles Oliveira had it in him to go up with those very top guys in the lightweight division. He has proven me wrong twice now. I also picked him against Dustin Poirier. I thought Oliveira was paper champion. I thought that Poirier was basically the champion that just hadn't claimed the strap yet because he was too busy taking those money fights with Conor McGregor. I just knew that Poirier was going to walk through Charles Oliveira, and he had some moments in that fight where I felt like it was happening. It was coming to fruition. He hurt Charles Oliveira multiple times in that fight, but Oliveira is a tough individual, man, and he's one of those guys that he'll get hurt, he'll get clipped, but he does a good job of shelling up when he's on the ground if he gets knocked down, grabbing at his opponent, you know, locking up his opponent to, minimize the damage, that sort of thing. And, guys don't really want to come to the ground with him. So it's one of those things. If you catch him and you knock him down, who wants to go into the guard and follow Charles Oliveira down into his guard? Nobody. Nobody. He's hella scary down there. And, this guy can go from one transition to another and keep you locked up with those long limbs the whole time he's down there. And he's one of the best at just transitioning from one submission to the other until one of them finally sticks and he catches you in something. So for that, guys are just scared to go down there with him. So if they do catch him and do clip him and hurt him, a lot of times he has time to recover because guys are scared to follow him down there. For fear of him regaining his composure and then catching them in something. So I think that's a big element to his game, that fear that he instills in just the average fighter, of how good his jiu-jitsu really is. I mean, he's probably the best in the lightweight division in terms of his jiu-jitsu, and guys are just scared of that. He's on that level that just strikes fear in his opponents. So, as far as who I'm picking for this fight, this is a tough one because I can't say enough about Justin Gaethje as well. And Justin Gaethje is a very tough individual. Obviously, he has a wrestling background, but he rarely uses it. He's much like Michael Chandler. Both of those guys have a wrestling background. They rarely use it. Chandler didn't use it in his fight against Dan Hooker either. These guys understand what the fans want to see and how to put on an entertaining fight, and I think that's why they go out there and do what they do. Justin Gaethje is no exception. Although he comes from a grappling background, he is a guy that is going to stand with you the whole time. He's got that whipping leg kick that he throws in there at the end of his combinations. Very, very hard punches. Power advantage, I have to give that to Justin Gaethje. I just have to. That uppercut that he throws, just, man, I mean, so powerful, Justin Gaethje, and he throws everything into his punches. Oliveira is going to need to be able to survive that because Oliveira is known to get hit. He does not move his head a lot. Now, his boxing's good, his kickboxing's good. He's got that straight kick to the sternum right up the middle that he uses really well. He comes in with elbows. He's good with grabbing the head in a clinch and throwing knees to the body. He's really good with that sort of thing. But here's the thing. Justin's movement is very, very good, and he's one of those guys that's in and out. He comes in, he lands his shots, and then he's back out of there. So I don't think he's going to be a stationary target for Oliveira to really be walking down. And now, Oliveira kind of walked down Dustin Poirier, and that was helpful, I think, to Dustin in a lot of ways because Dustin's a good counter striker, and he's one of those guys that if you come in and you overextend, he can catch you with something. He's real good with the check right, and he's southpaw, so he's got that straight left that he'll hit you with, and it's one of those things where Justin Gagey is the harder puncher. He's always going to have that threat of being able to knock out Charles Oliveira. The question is he willing to follow up? Is he willing to finish him? Is he willing to go all in? And then if he does do that, is that going to put him at risk later on because he has tired himself out? That's a good question. And these are all of the things that I really do not know how to pick this. I've seen Oliveira get hit. I've seen him get hurt. My heart has me leaning towards that Justin's going to be able to do that to him, with those leg kicks that maybe he'll be able to compromise his leg over the course of the fight to, really prevent Oliveira from being able to, come in and have a quick takedown attempt. It forces, those consistent leg kicks can hurt the strength in the legs of the opponent. It can make your leg weak, So when you go to shoot in or to grab a leg or to just get inside on a body lock to try to get your opponent down, you have trouble doing that because your leg's compromised and your leg's hurt and your leg is weak from being kicked and turned into hamburger meat over a period of a round, 2 rounds. Justin's so quick with it. It's like a whip. But it's like being hit by a baseball bat on the leg, I imagine. And so these are the things that Charles Oliveira is going to have to be very careful and stay away from. He's going to have to try to stay on the outside. I just don't think that as good as Justin is at fighting in close, kind of in the phone booth. Justin's really good at that. His clinch game, he'll grab the back of the head and uppercut guys. I think if Charles Oliveira is aggressive with Justin the way he was with Dustin Poirier, I don't think that's going to be helpful for Oliveira. I think that's going to favor Justin. And Justin's known to take a good shot as well, man. He was in a war with Dustin Poirier, and that fight finally got stopped. But how many clean shots did did Justin take before that fight was actually stopped? So this is a really tough one. I know I've just been kind of all over the place, but these are the, two of the best lightweights in the world, and both of them can do just about anything. Each of them have certain strengths that they can play to in this fight. Who am I picking? Oh, man. Guys, I'm just going to have to go with Charles Oliveira. Listen, let me make this clear. I'm an American. I'm pulling for the American. I would love it if Justin won. I want Justin to win. I want an American champion. I do. So, when I make my picks on here, I make my picks based on who I think has the skills to get it done and who is going to get it done, not who I want to win. So let me be clear. I want Justin to win on this hand, but I just can't bet against Charles Oliveira. I've done it twice already. He's proved me wrong, and I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to pick against him because he always just seems to find a way to get it done. But hey, man, uh, Justin is the stronger puncher and the stronger kicker as well. So if he can incorporate that into his game and he can utilize that leg kick to slow down Oliveira, the grappling attack of Oliveira, and possibly catch him with one of those uppercuts or one of those left hooks that Justin likes to throw, I think he can beat Oliveira. He needs to be careful not to tire himself out because don't get me wrong, Justin has great cardio, but when you're a guy who throws everything, every ounce of your being into every strike, every strike he throws has night ender written all over it. And when you're that type of guy, there's an energy expenditure that just naturally comes with that. So when the third, fourth round gets there, I think it's gonna start favoring Charles Oliveira because Justin throws everything into everything. And eventually that tires a guy out a little bit. It slows down the attack of a guy a little bit. So if it's early within the first couple of rounds, I feel like Justin knocks him out, gets the win. If it starts going into the third, fourth round, I just got to go with Oliveira, and I think he has a better chance of catching Justin when Justin is slowed down a little bit, when he can't retreat as fast, when he can't sprawl as quickly, and I think at that point Oliveira might be able to get him up against the fence in the later rounds, drag him down to the ground, and then at that point he's just like a spider, man, with 8 legs. I mean, this guy just looks like he's got limbs everywhere. Once he gets on the ground, then that's just hard to contend with if you're not on the same level as him. So that's what I got. Those are who I'm picking, and I can't wait for the fights. I hope you guys check them out as well. Please hit that subscribe button if you have not, and I will see you next time. Peace.